We can't hear you.
No sound.
I am hoping that now in the sanctuary you see me in all of my big-headed splendor. Shabbat Shalom to everybody. On Zoom, I probably look like just this regular speaker view. And yes, I appreciate the well wishes and the prayers of healing. They're very, very appreciated. And I look forward to being able to be out of my quarantine and with our congregation in person soon. As we are here on this Shabbat, I do have to say that my plans, of course, over the weekend have changed dramatically. A few weeks ago, I got a wonderful, beautiful email from Johnny May Perry. Johnny May is the head of the Gifford Historical Museum and Cultural Center. It's a little church that used to be up in Wabasso that has been moved down into Gifford next to Gifford Middle School. And she sent me an email about a month ago, and she said that they are going to be having an Emancipation Day celebration tomorrow starting at 11, and she was hoping that folks from our community could come. And I was like, that sounds great. I'm looking forward to doing that. And I made a contribution through the Rabbi's Discretionary Fund and the Treasure Coast Interfaith Community to be able to support that event with the intention of being able to go. And it was one of those things that I knew we had services that morning, and that I was hoping that after the service was over, Cantor and I would be able to run over, and maybe Jill would be able to come with me to be able to show support. And then last Saturday. And I feel like that is a trope, that is a statement that I make far too often. I remember saying it after Collinville, and then last Saturday, and now I say it again. Because here's yet another act of violence, another act of senseless hatred that has been perpetrated in our world. In this case, it was the Tops grocery store in Buffalo, New York, where an 18-year-old white gunman went and shot up a grocery store in an African-American in a black neighborhood in Buffalo. Why? Because he was, and we've all, I hope that you have read some of the comments and the rhetoric that he put out in his various writings and social media posts, that there's this plot by Jews to get people of color to take over the United States. It's just heartbreaking. Because here we're watching this, and here it is, and it's one of those statements where you're like, here is an attack, it's racism, how awful, and not just how awful, this is awful, we can't have a world like this. And then you realize that it's not just racism, but it's tinged with anti-Semitism. It's the same rhetoric that we've been hearing, Tree of Life and in Conway, and the Protocols of Elders of Zion out of Tsarist Russia, the Church of the Middle Ages and blood libels, Hitler and the Nazis. It's all the same evil rhetoric about those people might be our enemies, so let's kill them first. And I hear it and I see it and I'm heartbroken and crestfallen, and I'm trying to think, what is our response? I mean, here we are, I see that rhetoric, and all of us what are we trying to do? We're not trying to take over the world. What are we trying to do? We're trying to find our place alongside everybody else, to live in our world of peace, everybody being able to sit under their vine and fig, and somehow it gets twisted into that awful evil that destroys so many lives. And it's sickening to read how that gunman killed another group of people, attacked another group of people, thinking that somehow it was an attack on us. And we absolutely do have to respond. We have to stand up, and we have to build a world of kindness and peace. There is no question, there is no doubt that that's what we need to do. And so I hope, as I share that with you on this Shabbat, my week has also changed, that on Saturday, I heard of the attack in Buffalo, and I was really ready to go to Emancipation Day. And obviously my humans plan and God laughs. And here I am stuck in quarantine and not able to go. And so I am hoping some of you, it's outside, they're going to have incredible food, I've been told. And so I hope some of you will go over to the Gifford Cultural Museum. It's on 45th Street. It's near the Gifford Middle School and go to that celebration to show that the Jewish community is present with other communities that are in places of danger. That's my first call to you, ask of you to go and to be present, to be visible. If you can't go tomorrow, think about being a member of the Gifford Historical Museum and Cultural Center and look for other ways to show your presence in that community. But that's not my only ask, because that wasn't the only response. That wasn't the only damage that was done with the senseless act of hatred. There's a whole nother layer. And I saw little mentions of it, but then I saw more articles over the course of the week. The Top supermarket on Buffalo's East Side was a store that the Black residents pushed for years to get. Why? Why did they work so hard to get years to have a grocery store? Because it serviced an area that otherwise would be a food desert. Remember that term, food desert, because they exist all over country, even here in Indian River County. These are places where, looking at the geographic area, looking at the residents who live in those places, their resources, their ability to have transportation, do not have access to markets or stores that have decent quality, affordable food. They are places where you can't either walk to a supermarket or drive easily to a supermarket or have bus service, that you have to go miles and miles and make incredible effort. Think about our area. I mean, how many of us live close to 3, 4, 5 Publixes? And yet there are people that live in our county that are miles and miles away, and not just miles and miles away, because I'm sure some of you are saying, I live miles and miles away, but how many of us then have transportation? It's easy for us to get into a car, which we have, or with the hours of our job to be able to get groceries, or we pop onto our computer because we have computer and we have internet and we can bring it up as an Instacart order. That is not everybody's reality. There are far too many people in our county and in our country that live in these food deserts. And this store came to this neighborhood after the residents struggled for years of being in that kind of food desert. And now, with this shooting where this man went to, because he was going to destroy Black lives, and in fact, what did he do? He destroyed the heart of a whole community, because now it's closed. Now it's a crime scene. Now it's the center of all of this incredible trauma. And now, once more, those residents in that place are cut off from that oasis. And there are articles about the community rising up to support, and food pantries popping up, and community refrigerators and all sorts of stuff. But it's not the same as going to a supermarket and being able to shop with dignity and with ability. And this is not just a random concern. This is not just, oh, I saw something about Buffalo in the food desert. This is actually this week's Torah portion. In this week's Torah portion, we are told in Parshat Behar, we are told that 6 years you work your land. You plant, you harvest, you bring it to market, you feed your family. But in the 7th year, the sabbatical year, the Shemitah year, you do not sow and you do not cultivate your land. You let the land be. You give the land a rest, and then you just accept what the land is able to give you. That we are not supposed to be, we're supposed to take ourselves out of that active working of the land, allowing the land to do what it needs, reminding ourselves that ultimately the land doesn't belong to us. We don't have control. We have to step aside and let the land respond to God, respond to nature, to provide the food that we need. And in addition to that instruction to let the land lie, there are all kinds of instructions of, as we do harvest, make sure that there is food for the widow, stranger, and orphan. And even more powerful, if somebody is in a bad situation, a bad economic situation, you are not allowed to use food as a way to control or belittle. If somebody is in a bad situation, make sure they have the food they need. It's right there in the Torah. It's a response, a call to us to look at our world and see where these food deserts are. And as we enjoy the blessings of our lives, how do we then turn it around and take care of the people around us? I was thinking about the Shemitah, the sabbatical year, and what does it mean to have the land lie fallow, and how does it impact us and our ways of thinking about how food is delivered to us? And I started thinking about Passover. Think about it. We take a week during Passover to change how we eat. Every meal to think about what are the ingredients in this food to make sure we don't eat leavened bread or we don't eat something that has been leavened. For a week in Pesach, we stop because we want to remember what it was like to be refugees. We want to stop to think about the food we eat in a very different way. And then you have the sabbatical. It takes a full year of not planting, of not cultivating, of not pruning, of not working the land and just letting the land be, to really get that whole sense, to go through that whole cycle of planting to harvest, to really get a sense, a whole cycle of the harvest of our fruits and our vegetables and our grains, so we can see how it grows without human intervention, so that we can really appreciate the land and appreciate also all of that hard work that goes in to making sure there is food for all. And so in this Shemitah year, we happen to be in a Shemitah year, and we don't live in Israel, which is the place where they do a lot of sabbatical stuff. And a lot of us do not. I know I'm probably might be one of those exceptions. A lot of us don't do a lot of gardening. We don't do a lot of cultivation of the land. But what a wonderful, what a powerful, what an incredible moment to call attention to these food deserts, for us to stop and think about where our groceries are and where groceries are not. How people without transportation or time or resources have, how hard it is for people to travel and get food to feed themselves and their families. That Tops grocery store attack and that community's response to that closing off of that food source, we have to consider it. We have to think about this as we are thinking about our sources of food, so that we can also then be ready to honor and support those in our community working to bring that sense of oasis to the desert that are in our food, that are in our communities. I call your attention to just a few. There's United Against Poverty, which is a couple of centers around town, but it has these amazing discount grocery stores that if somebody is in need and they go in, they can get whole shopping carts for pennies on the dollar. It's a way to feed a family and to have a real shopping experience, even if you don't have a lot of resources. And they have job training, and they have support for families who are navigating government agencies. There's a Shining Lights garden that I'm hoping we're going to get a chance to go to around the time of Sukkot. It's 20 acres of garden, of farm that is run by volunteers, excuse me, and donations to provide fresh produce to local food distribution centers. Keeps it interesting. There's a food bank and a food pantry here in our community. They collect donations of food that use money that donations that they receive to buy discounted food that they're then able to make emergency food packets. There's The Source, there's Camp Haven. There is a list in our community, and they need our attention and support. This is our chance to think about it, not just those organizations, but little moments in time, little spaces that we have in our schedule and our experience. How many of us go grocery shopping? And I remember Susan Match sent an email, this is 5 or 6 years ago, and she said, when you're in the grocery store and you see a buy one, get one, you might not need the second item. Fine, do the BOGO, take the item and donate it to the food pantry. And it's easy to say, well, I'm going to be running around and spend all my time looking for all these BOGOs. Just do one. Every shopping trip, make it part of your task that every time in the grocery store you come out with one item that was a buy one, get one that you are going to donate. Or maybe one time when you are out for a nice dinner and you look at the bill and you say, you know what, as I eat this food, like in that sabbatical year, how do I find a way to reflect that back into the world and donate that amount of your dinner? Once a month, donate it to one of these organizations. We have a high holiday food drive. May every person in our congregation next year for our high holy day food drive bring at least one item. What an impact it would be if each one of us, regardless of where we are, made sure at least one item in our name and honor with the weight of our action went to these people in need. Look, I share this with you, and I will be the first to admit these actions of bringing food into our world will not stop mass shootings. They will not end racism. But we can make this kind of effort in this Shemitah year, even if we're not observing it in the same way as folks, farmers in Israel, or but we can have that awareness, and we can take these small actions that bring comfort and resources into places of great need. This is our way. In the wake of that shooting, the realization of the impact it has on that community far away, this is our opportunity in our place, in our space, in our time to show Olam Chesed Yibaneh, that we can build our world out of chesed, out of love and kindness. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.